What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my NFL DFS picks for Week 13 of the NFL, coming off of a very solid week last week thanks to one Tyreek Hill. Hopefully keep it going into this week. And as always, going to give my favorite, like 3, 4, maybe 5 plays from each position here. And yeah, so before we get started, if you guys can leave a like, subscribe if you have not yet, would appreciate that a ton. And let's get started here, starting with the quarterbacks. And a very interesting situation with the quarterbacks this week. There are really not many plays that really jump out to you this week. Like, I like DESHAUN Watson here, though, 7,500 going against the Colts. And you got a 51.5 point game total where the Texans are going to be 3-point underdogs. And Watson is averaging 25.5 DraftKings points per week. And yeah, Watson has been on fire as of late. I know he had that bad game against Cleveland, but we got to remember there was some really bad weather in that game. Other than that, he's been fantastic. Besides, he had a couple rough games to start the year, but man, the dude's been good. The only thing is he's going to be missing Will Fuller. That's the big thing for this game. He's going to be missing Fuller. Fuller is going to be out for the rest of the regular season, I do believe, but still with fantastic stacking options. You got COUTEE and you got Brandin Cooks there, so very cheap as well. So I think the stack here could be very cheap of these Texans players here. So definitely something I'm looking forward to, playing here. It's not the best matchup in the world, but like I said, there really aren't many options that really stick out. And I do think Watson has one of the best upsides this week. So definitely like DESHAUN Watson at 7,500. I think Russell Wilson's fine if you want to go up and pay for him. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is really interesting. 6,847 point game total here, where the Packers are 9-point favorites, and he is averaging 25.5 DraftKings points per week. Great stackable options. Adams being my favorite. You got TONYAN. You got guys like that. So I do think the stack is decent here for Rodgers. I'm pretty much. I like the Rodgers and Adams single stack probably the most there. But yeah, I like Rodgers here at that price of 6,800. Solid matchup here at home against Philly. You get the decent savings off of the top guys, and like I said, great stackable options to pair him in tournaments. So Rodgers is definitely somebody I'm looking at. I like the matchup. I like his pairing options. And so yeah, give me some Rodgers at 6,800 for tournaments there. Going down a little bit, I think this is a really interesting play here. Ryan Tannehill, 6,400. Going against Cleveland in a 54-point game total, which is, I believe, one of the highest, if not the highest on the slate. And the Titans are 5.5-point favorites. And yeah, Tannehill is averaging 20.9 DraftKings points per game. And a really fantastic matchup against this Browns passing defense. You got great stackable options. Brown, FIRKSER, Davis. And stacking the Titans passing game could get you off the Henry chalk. Henry's going to be so high owned. I don't think many people are going to try this Tannehill stack out. I think a lot of people are going to go to Henry. Maybe people will be on Brown a little bit. But man, this is a really good matchup for the Titans, just in the passing game in general. The Browns do struggle in the pass in general, and they're going to be missing Denzel Ward, the best cornerback on the team. So, yeah, Tannehill, 6,200. I like that stack there. I think it's kind of a sneaky stack as well. Touchdown upside for Tannehill and one of the best totals on the slate there. So, I like it a lot. And I do like Kirk Cousins, 6,400. So, look out for if Tua does not play, I think Fitzpatrick at 6,000 is interesting. Derek Carr is interesting. Goff, Mitchell Trubisky, but those are probably my top 3 that I'm going to go with. I really like that Watson stack. I really like that Rodgers stack and Tannehill there. If you want to save some salary, I think Trubisky's a decent option as well. So getting into the running backs here. And going up top, Dalvin Cook, 9,500. It's an interesting play here. He's going to be extremely high owned. Not as high owned as last week. He did screw a lot of people last week, including me. 52-point game total here where the Vikings are 9.5-point favorites, and he is averaging 27 DraftKings points per week. And like I said, he had a poor game last week, which should lower his ownership. And a great matchup against one of the worst run defenses in the league in the Jaguars. And yep, Dalvin Cook has been fantastic this year, averaging 27 DraftKings points per week. He has that 30-plus touch upside and some pass-catching upside as well. Touchdown upside, scoring 14 touchdowns on the year. And you really can't ask for a better matchup and a better gain script against this Jaguars defense. So I like Cook a lot. The only thing is his head coach said he was a little beat up, which is a little bit concerning. But, man, this is such a good matchup for him. I do think the ownership's going to be high, but a little bit lower than last week. So definitely looking into Cook this week. I think Derrick Henry is going to be very popular. I think a lot of people are going to want to be on him. I think he's a fine play. I think Nick Chubb's an interesting play as well. So James Robinson, 7,300 versus Minnesota. You got a 50.5 point game total where the Jaguars are 10-point underdogs here. And he is averaging 19.5 DraftKings points per week. He has that very solid volume with pass catching upside as well. Pretty decent matchup against this Minnesota defense. And Robinson, their team should be coming from behind the Jaguars, leading to more pass catches. I still think the volume is going to be there because in a lot of these games, they are coming from behind and he's still getting his 20-plus touches. So I'm not overly concerned about that. The matchup's fine. I think Robinson's a beast, man. I really like him at 7,300. Going down to 7,100, Austin Ekeler was all over him last week. It worked out really good. Did score 23.9 DraftKings points, but he was like, 6,100 last week, and they priced him up 1,000 here, which rightfully so. He was way too cheap last week. Going against New England here, he got the 47-point game total where the Chargers are a point favorite, and he is averaging 17.2 DraftKings points. He did return from injury last week and did very well. About 24 DraftKings points with no touchdowns, like a really good game. 16 targets, 11 receptions last week for 25 total touches. I love the floor that he brings and his pass catching upside. Decent matchup at home against his Pats defense. I like it. I like the upside. I think it's a great cash play. I like the floor. I like the reception upside. So give me Austin Ekeler at 7,100. I think Aaron Jones is really interesting as a low-owned play there at 7,200. But going down, and there's some decent value down here as well. I mean, Devontae Booker, 5,500 versus the Jets. Got the 47-point game total where the Raiders are 7.5-point favorites. And he is averaging 6.8 DraftKings points per week. But of course, Josh Jacobs is out, giving Booker a huge opportunity here with a very solid matchup against the Jets. And what I like about this play in general is like the Raiders should be ahead here, leading to more carries for Booker. He should see some touchdown opportunities in a game that has a decent total. So just a great cheap running back here with some solid upside for Booker. I do think he'll be fairly popular, but still really good matchup. I love the game script. Josh Jacobs is out. I like it at 5,500. The other guy I do want to talk about, David Montgomery, 5,500 as well, going against Detroit, which is like one of the worst run defenses in the league. 44-point game total here where the Bears are 3-point favorites. He is averaging 14 DraftKings points per week. Had a massive game last week, scoring 28.3 DraftKings points against Green Bay. And gets an even better matchup here against this really bad Detroit run defense. So Detroit has given it the most DraftKings points to opposing running backs this year. And just another cheap running back with some solid upside. The only problem is he's going to be massively high owned. So I think it's good in cash. If you want to get away from it in tournaments, don't hate it. I can definitely see an opportunity where he does not, crush at 5,500. But it's really hard to ignore the upside. It's really hard to ignore the matchup that David Montgomery has here. So definitely looking for David Montgomery there at 5,500. Other than that, I think Duke Johnson's a decent play. Hines is in play. But I'm really going to be on Booker and Montgomery down in that low range there. All right. Getting into the wide receivers here. And Davante Adams up top. Fantastic play. If you can afford him, go for it. I think that what's interesting would be to, instead of going up and paying for a Henry or a Dalvin Cook this week, I think going up and paying for it, Adams can definitely get you a little bit different. I still think Adams is going to have some ownership, but everybody's going to go up and get your Cooks, and everybody's going to go up and get their Henrys. So I do expect Adams to be semi-owned, but not as owned as we usually see an Adams be. So I do think he has that slate-breaking potential. So Adams is definitely somebody I'm looking at if you can go up and get him. Because there are a decent amount of running back plays that are cheap, like Booker, like Montgomery, Ekeler, Robinson, that I do think you can get, pair them with like a Devontae Adams there. So something to think about there. Keenan Allen always in play. The dude's a beast. I've been playing him like every single week in cash. It's been working out. AJ Brown, 7,600 going against Cleveland here in a 54-point game total, which is one of the highest on the slate, where the Titans are 5.5-point favorites, and he is averaging 18.2 DraftKings points per week and averaging a little bit over 7 targets per game, 8 touchdowns in 9 games for A.J. Brown here. And like I said, Ward is not expected to play, which is going to hurt the Browns defense a lot here, in my opinion. And I just love the matchup in general against a Browns team that does struggle through the air. So A.J. Brown, 7,600, I like it a lot. Going down, I think Thielen's really interesting. But I do want to talk about Allen Robinson, 6,700 going against Detroit in a 44-point game total where the Bears are 3-point favorites, and he is averaging 17.3 DraftKings points per week, getting about 10 targets per game. Very good matchup against this Detroit secondary, and the Lions have given up the 6th most DraftKings points to opposing wide receivers. And Trubisky and Robinson makes a solid, cheap stack against a really poor defense if you did want to go there. I honestly don't hate that stack there. Something I might have a couple lineups of, but yeah, Robinson in general should be a really good play here. I like the price. I like the upside. Going to get a ton of targets as he usually does. So, and the match was fantastic. So Allen Robinson is something I'm definitely looking at there. Going down, DeVontae Parker is going to be interesting if Tua does not play, and if Fitzmagic does play or does start, then Parker's definitely on play for me there. Cooper Kupp, I like him a lot. Robert Woods is really interesting though, 5,900. I can't believe these prices on these Rams wide receivers in general, like Kupp, Reynolds, and Woods. I really think they're way too cheap here. But Woods in general, 5,900 against Arizona in a 48.5 point game total, where the Rams are 3-point favorites. And Woods is averaging 17 DraftKings points per week, 7 touchdowns on the year, 27 targets in the last 2 weeks, has been getting targeted a ton, and he's averaging just above 8 targets per game. And yeah, fantastic matchup against this Arizona defense. I really don't mind the Rams stack, the Goff, the Woods, the Kupp, the Reynolds. It's a very cheap stack, and I think there's some solid upside. So yeah, give me Woods here at 5,100. I think it's way too cheap. I think it's a little disrespectful as well for how good Woods has been. Even Kupp above him. Like, I do think these players should be priced a little bit higher. All right, probably one of the chalkiest plays on the slate, and for a really good reason here. Brandin Cooks, 5,600 versus the Colts. He got a 51.5 point game total where the Texans are 3-point underdogs, and he is averaging 13.2 DraftKings points per week, averaging about 7 targets per game. And Fuller is suspended. Stills was cut, and Cobb is on the IR, giving Cooks a ton of opportunity here. Even more opportunity than he's already been getting, and he's been getting a ton of opportunity this year in general. So 5,600 is insane, honestly. So I definitely see why it's going to be one of the highest owned plays on the slate. I am liking the Watson-Cook stack this week. Watson-Cook's COUTEE could be a good stack there. So yeah, I like it. I like it a lot, as well as a lot of people are going to. The price is just way too cheap. I think it's probably a must own in cash. I think I'm gonna have a lot of lineups and tournaments with it as well. Denzel Mims, 4,100 is somebody also like here in a 47-point game total. Just kind of as a cheap play, as I mentioned, Reynolds up there at 4,200 is a good play. But where the Jets are 7.5-point underdogs, which I do like for Mims here. And he is averaging 9.1 DraftKings points per game, averaging about 6.5 targets per game. Very solid matchup against the Raiders. And Darnold coming back does help him a lot, I'd say. And like I said, the Jets should be coming from behind, leading to more passing attempts. The matchup's pretty solid against the Raiders. And yeah, I do like Mims here at that price for sure. Other than that, I do want to mention him a little bit. KEKE here at 3,500 versus the Colts in a 51-point game total, and he is averaging only 5.6 DraftKings points per game, but like I mentioned, Fuller is suspended, Stills was cut, and Cobb is on the IR, giving him a ton of opportunity here at a great price of 3,500, just way too cheap. He's wide receiver 2 here on a fairly good offense with a really good quarterback in Deshaun Watson, so I do like him a lot here at that price. And like I said, I'm liking the cheap Texans stack this week as well. So something to look at there. And then tight ends, we can go up and talk about Waller. Of course, I do think Waller's in play going against the Jets. Waller did screw a lot of people last week, including me. Evan Ingram, I do think, is in play as well. Let's see here. So Robert Tonyan, I do think is really interesting here. 3,700 going along with kind of the RODGERS stack. Going against the Eagles here in a 47-point game total where the Packers are 9-point favorites, and Tonyan is averaging 12.5 DraftKings points per week. And Eagles do struggle versus the tight ends, giving up the 8th most DraftKings points to tight ends this year. And it just seems way too cheap here for the matchup and how well Tonyan has been playing this year. And like I said, I'm loving the Tonyan and RODGERS stack this week. Devontae Adams as well. So just a cheap punt tight end with some solid upside against this Eagles defense. Something I'm definitely looking at. And then I do want to we'll talk about 2 more here. So Dallas Goedert, 4,300 against Green Bay, the other side of the ball there. I do think this is a great play here. 4,300 is really cheap, averaging 12.1 DraftKings points, 10 targets in week 12, 6 in week 11, 6 in week 10. The targets are there. You know, the production's there, 20.5 DraftKings points. Week 12, 18.7 against Cleveland. I do think it's a solid matchup here against Green Bay. In a game, they're probably going to be trailing here. So I do like Goddard a lot at 4,300 in tournaments. But in most of my lineups, or at least my cash lineup for sure, I will have some tournament lineups with it as well. Probably have to type them in here. So very interesting here. Anthony FIRKSER, 2,500 minimum price here, tight end. Averaging 6.6 DraftKings points per week. So Jonnu Smith is going to be out, making this a very, very easy cash play. Just plug him in your cash games. Allows you to pay up elsewhere at your wide receiver positions, your running back positions. So FIRKSER is something I'm definitely looking at that price. I mean, 2,500, you really don't need much. Just get a couple catches. And actually, I think he has decent upside going against Cleveland here, who does struggle against the tight end, who does struggle in the passing game in general. So FIRKSER, going to have a lot. He's going to be very popular, but for a really good reason. The dude's very, very cheap. And we can touch on defenses a little bit. Obviously, the Dolphins defense, if you want to pay up for it, go for it. The Seahawks defense against the Giants, I really like at 3,300. Other than that, I find it to be paying down and punting at defense in a lot of my lineups this week. Kind of punted down a little bit last week, and it worked out. Jets, 2,100 against the Raiders. The Raiders looked awful last week. The Raiders are going to be without Josh Jacobs, so I think the Jets, like at 2,100, you really don't need much. I mean, they're average 4 DraftKings points. I'd be happy with 4 to 6 DraftKings points. It allows you to pay up elsewhere, so I'm gonna pay down at defense a lot this week, and Jets is going to be one of those defense I pay down for. Another defense you can pay down for could be the Falcons defense. I mean, they're very, very bad, averaging 5.3 DraftKings points per week, but Taysom Hill at quarterback, missing Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara not being Alvin Kamara. I think it's okay if you do want to pay down for the Falcons. But yeah, that's about it there. Nothing else really sticks out to me. But yeah, really excited for this week. Ready to win some money. We had a pretty good week last week thanks to Tyreek Hill, but it's all going to come down to finding that one stack that's going to go off. Could it be the Texans stack with Deshaun Watson? Could it be the Aaron Rodgers stack? One of those. So, yep, really looking forward to it. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me. Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram, DFS by the numbers. My DMs are always open if you have any questions. And good luck, and let's win some money on Sunday.